hope everyone's doing great out there. Wanted to welcome you back to this next edition of Security North and South. Mark, always great to see you.
Yeah, Eddie, great to see you as well. Although last time we were together, it was a little warmer where we were versus where I am today. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark and I had the opportunity to be together at a security event and see a lot of our colleagues and, of course, see each other in person, and also had a great opportunity to shoot a couple of great episodes of Security North and South. So a lot going on in the industry, and we talked a lot about that with the colleagues and some of our guests. So we actually talked, we're going to be presenting this first episode here with Kenneth Oringer with Security ProAdvisors. Keith's got a lot of experience in the industry, been around a long time. And Mark, what did you find interesting about our talk with Keith?
It was great. It was, unfiltered is probably how I describe it. And, having an M&A guy in the room that's been there, done that, from an operator perspective, it was great getting that insight. And, he answered the questions that you've always wanted to ask, but maybe were afraid to. So the answers were good, and I hope people enjoy the episode and enjoy the insight.
Yeah, and of course, there's no shortage of M&A activity in our industry. It seems like not a week or a month goes by when something else is not occurring. So he brought a lot of great perspective to that. And, one of the things that we discussed is different points of view and really looking at things from different angles. And Security North and South, that's really the intent of what we're doing here, is not necessarily just to present one side or even an issue that everyone's going to agree with. And Mark, I don't know about you, but I've had quite a few people reach out and comment on Security North and South. And when we were at the event, I had a few people come up and suggest topics and ideas. So what kind of feedback have you gotten so far on this little venture that we've encountered?
Yeah, the list is long, Eddie? I mean, it's as though everyone's coming out of the woodwork.
Sure.
People have ideas, and in many cases, it's just that curiosity, right? And not talking about traditional things that we normally talk about on the security side, and risk assessment and so on. It's all necessary topics, but hey, let's get into the business of it, right? And maybe sometimes the underbelly, kind of here and there, and figure that kind of stuff out. So we had a short list or a medium-sized list of topics we wanted to cover when we were planning this a little while back, and now that list just got quite a bit longer. So
it has.
We'll have our hands full.
Yeah, and I joked with one of the colleagues that we saw at this event that when we first started, our goal was to reach tens of people. So maybe that has grown a little bit, but
baby steps.
Exactly, yeah. Maybe I'm overestimating when I'm saying tens of people. Maybe it's in the single digits at this point, but really the intent was to have some of those unconventional conversations, and I think talking to Keith certainly fits that bill as well. A lot going on, seeing things from his perspective. Both you and I look at it from an industry perspective, but he's been sort of in the trenches in some of this M&A activity. So I think he had some real good thoughts, and I think we'll hear more of that and an upcoming guest as well that we're going to present here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, lots of things to talk about, and teaser alert for everybody. M&A activity won't be slowing down anytime soon, so that's let's hear what Keith has to say about it.
Absolutely. Well, always go to securitynorthsouth.com for more information and to keep up on episodes, and enjoy our discussion with Kenneth Oringer, founder and president of Security ProAdvisors.
Probably the most momentum I've seen, Mark, in years. There's a ton of private equity money coming in the security guarding space, but also there's a ton of money coming in on the technology end also. So, years ago we just focused on the guarding, but that technology piece is intertwined. And why there's so much money in the space is what's going on in society, with the workplace violence, terrorism from abroad, many factors, social unrest, and the pandemic obviously accelerated a lot of people under a lot of stress through the pandemic, mental health issues. So a whole host of socioeconomic economic factors. Private equity is looking for more real EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. Venture capital is more for early startups. I think everyone's looking for the next Apple or Microsoft, and there are companies out there that 10 years from now could be those companies. And I think, with biometrics, robots, drones, anything with artificial intelligence, that's where the money's going to. And, with biometrics, you're seeing people not only use the face now, but the iris of the eye. Yeah. So technology is constantly changing. As long as, the factors with violence and all that continue, technology and guarding people coupled together is really important. I don't think you could go one without the other now. It's combined forever.
The service part.
Right.
You touched on
cyber also. Cyber
of course.
is
not going away,
huge. Right? We saw the pipeline issue when many factors, people working from home. So cyber security, huge amount of private equity, venture capital.
And the police have so many resources, so they have to rely on security. Also, in the in-house market, a lot of corporations do not want to be in the security business, so that outsourcing is continuing. And we also see it in the government area, also, municipalities outsourcing. So this will continue, and there's the most excitement I've seen in the security space in years, and there's so much pouring into it. There are people in contiguous businesses, whether it's janitorial or parking or any of those service business, who might jump in also. So it's security is really it's pre 9/11. It was viewed as a cost. After 9/11, especially the pandemic, has really amplified it, and it shows how important that security officer is, whether he's doing temperature checking, making sure there's enough, certain 6 feet apart. It really shows that, they're critical to an office building or, retail store, wherever. As far as a seller, you want to have, first of all, they're going to look at what types of accounts you have. They're going to look at, armed versus unarmed, union versus non-union. They're going to look at your margins. They're going to look at account concentration. Is one account make up 50% or it's spread? They're looking at risk from their point. They're also going to look at the management talent, the management stability, types of customers you are, verticals. Let's talk about the pandemic. People who were in stadiums or retail stores got hurt in the pandemic. People who were in other businesses like hospitals where there was a necessity, or a retail store that was a drugstore or a grocery chain did okay. So what vertical market you're in is critical. Is that vertical market growing? Diversification is great because you want to take risk off the table. Are you going to invest in Amazon as one stock? No, you're going to diversify your portfolio, because if something happens, same thing if you're a potential seller. I would say fairly similar in Europe. We're still seeing that technology play with the security officers. They had the same things with the pandemic as we did. Obviously there are different labor laws in those countries, but again, it's there's a lot of similarities. As far as people resigning from their jobs, that data haven't really compared, Europe to the U.S. But as far as the business as a whole, there's definitely a lot of similarities.
And that's what Eddie and I talk a lot about the business of security, right? As opposed to the security of business, to kind of play with those words.
I think, we've seen a lot of the larger companies go the technology route. You still have some of the local mom and pops who don't have the capital to invest in technology, but yet they serve a portion of the market that wants that boutique service, local service. They don't want to deal with a big company. They want to deal with the owner. So there's a a market for those small mom and pop
Yeah.
companies still.
We've said it before, there's value in the relationship, right? So if you have that relationship local.
Exactly.
Yeah, when it comes down to buying and selling companies, you're really buying and selling relationships in a big way. And one of the things that we've seen too really happen in the technology sector is a lot of those mom and pop companies couldn't compete when it comes to technology, but now there are so many providers that will partner up with those quote unquote guarding companies where you don't have to build it or go buy it. You can actually leverage those partnerships. So I'm sure you've seen that quite a bit as well.
Exactly. There's so much off-the-shelf software, and it's easier for those companies to compete against the big boys because, as you said, they don't have to build it, they don't have to incur all that cost.
Yeah.
They use it as they need it.
Take advantage of the technology as opposed to building the technology from scratch.
Because the officer now has to use technology, whether it's handheld devices or dealing with anything artificial intelligence, that biometrics, access control, any of that stuff, they have to have a higher skill set. And as a result, the industry, I'm seeing wages go up and customers agreeing that we need security. It's not a necessity like pre-9/11 where they just used it because of insurance purposes. It's important. A lot of the CSOs of companies now report to the CEO of the company.
Yeah.
That's changed. Before it was viewed as a cost, an overhead.
Offshoot somewhere else.
Now it's an intangible value they're creating. The security officer used to be observe and report. Now with artificial intelligence, that we're trying to predict incidents, predict behavior, and we're using all those data points to help the company. So we add more value than we did before. Before you were, an incident happened and you had to go back to the tape with the reports. Now we're proactive. We might head off an incident. So it's all about predictive behavior and helping the clients for the future. Let's talk about travel risk. Now travel risk security. Some companies have gotten into it big time. If they're sending their executives overseas, they want to, if they see something's happening over there, they're not going to send them. It's all about intelligence of data and bringing that to the forefront. A lot of data in terms of incidents happening, what's happening, people piggybacking through artificial intelligence, perimeter breaches, all that stuff. So the more data you have, the more analysis you have, the more you help the customer, the more you prevent incidents.
Dashboards.
Right.
Well, and we'll close with this question. Do you see the M&A activity heating up in the next 5 years, or do you see it cooling down?
I see it continue, and Mark and I have had this conversation a number of times, especially the security officer space, security guard space, so fragmented. There are new companies popping up all the time. Obviously we have some really big players, but 5 years ago there was a company who was 1 million. Today they might be 10 or 15 million. So new companies are popping up. We've seen consolidation every decade. There was this buyer, that buyer. They came in and we thought, M&A would stop. It's continuing, and more money coming into the space creates more opportunities for everyone, whether it's on the people space or the technology front.